Sounded a little crazy.
This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. Okay. So welcome everybody to an evening of poetry and photography. It's one that I look forward to, and it is a year in the making, usually. We in the spring, we give out, we ask the poets to give us poetry, and we give them images, and then we take all summer to, some of us write about, the poets write about our images, and we take pictures about their poems. So it is a collaboration that goes both ways, and you will see, or you will hear, both those sides tonight. This is our third year doing this. It's been a great thing for the club, and I thank the poets very much. So without further ado, I want to introduce our poets tonight. A little bit of a change up, some familiar faces and some new ones. We have Tom Wood joining us. Tom has loved crafting words since childhood, editor and writer for 2 weekly newspapers, creator of various corporate publications, and executive speeches in public relation roles. He has written 25 years of journals, 2 screenplays, and short stories. His greatest love, poetry, found its way into the CAA Niagara Branch anthology, The Bannister in 2017, 18, and 19, and the independent poetry publication Gravitas in 2019. So please welcome Tom Wood. And I'm not sure, that's Barb. We're going to mute Barb. There we go. We also have with us Caitlin Samways. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Caitlin. Caitlin was a late comer to the party because one of our poets had to drop out halfway through. So Caitlin is saving the night. Caitlin is the half-wit writer, poet, cross creative, exploring a dream-like reality through meditation, poetry, painting, and cloud watching. Thank you for being here, Caitlin. Another poet you will hear tonight, but she's not joining us, is Elaine George. She submitted poems, but then was not able to participate. She's got some health issues going on. So hopefully that's, Elaine's gonna be okay. Elaine is an author and the proud recipient of 3 International Writing Awards and many other poetry awards. Many of her poems have been published in magazines and books in Canada and the United States, and used as teaching tools on websites and workshops globally. We also have Keith Inman is here. Declared a people's poet for his blue-collar style, Inman's work has won a variety of small press awards, peer reviews, and grants from the Ontario Arts Council. His books, The War Poems and the CISA from Black, is that right, Keith? From Black Moss Press can be found in major libraries. A new book, The Way History Dries, was released last fall. Keith is a member of the Canadian Authors Association, League of Canadian Poets, the Ontario Poets Society, and Canadian Cuba Literary Alliance. He also coordinates an Ontario Poetry Anthology Contest for the CAA's Niagara Branch, and he lives in a Century home in Thorold. Thank you for joining us tonight, Keith.
Good to be here.
And also his arm is sore, so if his poetry's off, that's the reason why. And last but not least, we have Susan Smith with us tonight. Susan, armed with a BA in English from Trent University, Susan Smith worked at a crazy quilt of occupations, writing poems and short stories for her own satisfaction. Upon retirement, she moved to Welland with her Turkish-born husband of nearly 40 years. Widowed in 2011, Susan joined the Niagara Poetry Group in 2018 and downsized to her treehouse condo in St. Catharines. Her poems have appeared in the Gravitas and the Bannister, the latter one including second and 1/3 prize winner in the poetry contest. So thank you for joining us tonight, Susan. So now that we've welcomed all the poets, I'm going to just explain how tonight's going to go. So the first half you will be hearing poetry that the poets submitted to us, the photographers, and you will be seeing images that we create, images inspired by poems. So as we read each poem this year, I've asked the photographers if you feel like you want to speak to how your process went, how you were inspired by the poem to take the photo. You have the opportunity to unmute yourself and say a few words right after the poem is done. So when we're done, I'll say, okay, this poem was by whoever, and if you'd like to speak to your process, go ahead, and you don't have to, it's no big deal, okay? So I do ask that everybody mutes themselves until and if you want to speak about your poem. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see. So first up we have tonight reading is Keith Inman. Keith, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, that's good. So Keith, whenever you're ready, we'll get started.
Do you want any background on the poems?
You can do that too, yeah.
Okay. The 4 poems I submitted are all from a pilgrimage walk my wife and I took from the north of France to the west coast of Spain. It's called the Camino. Took 40 days to complete and felt biblical at times, I'm telling you, and not because of the pilgrims, the churches, the hail, the snow, the cold, the old Roman roads, the wine, or the camaraderie. I'll start with the poem called Sunblade. It's shorter than what I'm talking about now, but that's okay. It was written early in the journey in Basque Country on the path towards Burgos. Burgos was a Franco stronghold for his forces, and a lot of mass graves can be found in the mountains in that area. So this is Sunblade. Poppies line the ditch like bones of a republic, plowed aside under the steady blade of the sun.
Very nice, Keith. Now, these pictures were taken by Nikki Ritz, and Nikki is not joining us tonight, but she did send me her thoughts, and I'll read them. Nikki says, this was a very challenging poem to depict as it was so short and sweet. I felt it was important to capture images that represented the symbolism of the red poppies and perhaps allow us to remember the many sacrifices young men and women made during the world wars and continue to make today to protect our rights and freedoms. I had hoped to travel to France to capture fields of poppies, but COVID stopped me from doing so. Instead, I waited, and the right time was fortunate enough to capture some of these images in our region. Excellent.
Very cool.
Okay, Keith.
A set of memories. It's kind of north of Spain, beautiful place, rocky passes, grassy plains. This poem, I implied that a rock has memory. Well, I can only say that I collect fossils too, so I guess in that respect, rocks record history. And a meseta is a dry, arid plain on the top of the Pyrenees. Meseta memory. Boulders along borders yawn in the waking of sun-stretched morning. The day's work ahead, forgetting years of eons creaking in beds, recording shadows.
Very nice. This image was captured by Valerie Frost. Valerie, if you have anything to add about your process, you can unmute yourself now. I'll give you a minute, and if not, we'll move on.
I can't say anything nearly as nice as what Nikki said about her poem, but I would just like to say I immediately liked the poem and had images in my mind as to what I wanted to do, but it brought to my mind images of, rocks and sand, and all the rocky and sandy places that I knew locally had a great lake lapping up against them. So it was a little bit of a challenge to try to get the picture. So it is a composite. And I was just trying to get the ideas of the rocks. There's a mention of a border, and I wasn't sure as to whether it was a friendly border or an unfriendly border. So there's a little piece of wire in the picture to kind of represent the border. And then obviously the figure yawning in the morning. And we have Darlene Davidson to thank for modeling for that picture. And this is sort of her beach area down near Morgan's Point. So it was a lot of fun doing it. And I really, really liked the poem, but I recognize that there are some of the ideas in the poem that I did not get anywhere close to capturing.
Awesome. Good job, Val.
Very good. I would disagree with you. I think it was captured very well.
Thank you.
My next one was Stump. This was written on a very windy day from the Burgos area to, interesting enough, a place called Hornios. So that's where the rhino came from, and from the stump. Stump. Upturned, defending its ground. A rhino buried to the neck, bellows at the wind.
And this image was provided by Peter Ferguson. Peter, I don't know if you've got something to say about this one.
Well, I like the shortness of the poem. I always like haiku and things like that. This one took a while to find something that even resembled a rhinoceros. So as much as I enjoyed the poem, I enjoyed the challenge of wandering aimlessly day after day through the woods, looking for something that looked like a rhino. I found dinosaurs and horses and cats and dogs, but this is the best I could do for a rhino. And I thought the painterly treatment enhanced it a little bit, more imaginative.
Pretty
Awesome.
cool. The last one, Obradoiro, is the name of the plaza in front of the Cathedral of St. James in Spain. The translation is the place of craftsmen. It's the plaza where the pilgrims meet after the walk. There's a commemorative tablet there where everybody puts their shoes and takes photographs and everybody meets. It's pretty neat. I mean, the different people you meet. We ended up hanging with an airline exec, a war vet, a diplomat, a travel agent, a nurse, a farmer. It doesn't matter. It's just pretty cool. This is called Obradoiro. A homeless man sat on the end of a bench watching walkers walk by. He pulled a towel over the sun-filled face of a sleeping millennial exec at his feet. She'd walked the stones with him, 800 clicks burning down the sky to find common air in discussions of history, the meaning of first names spelled differently, Band-Aids, extra socks, and t-shirts rolled in plastic, their pilgrimage carrying them inside the mountain of their own hearts, a journey among saints, looking for the place of craftsmen.
Very nice. And these images were brought to us by Susan Dayball. Susan, if you've got anything to add to that.
Okay, I really enjoyed doing this. It took me forever. I I had to use our area, so I did the pictures with, I kind of more set them up than, yeah, I didn't find them, I built them. But once I put the pictures together, I just thought black and white suited them so much better. So it's more I use my area and tried to capture some of the meaning of the poem, but hope I didn't kill your poem. I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed doing it.
I have a question. How did you set that last one up right there?
The
That
sky
one I
picture.
did. No, that's early in the morning out on the lake.
You
No,
just
I-
dialed into the higher power and said you needed some sun rays, or?
Yeah, it took me all summer to get that one. That's one of my favorites.
I almost see a set of wings in the middle too. It's cool. That's a cool picture.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith.
Oh, thank you.
We'll hear from Keith again in the second half. And we're moving on to Susan Smith.
Okay, I can unmute myself there. I don't have a story behind these poems. They kind of have to just stand on their own, I'm afraid.
Well, Susan, can you speak up just a little bit?
Yes. A greeting to gravitational waves. The outer dark is not dead, nor lies numb against our world, the way night in the campground presses on blind, wide open eyes. Blackness of farthest space numbers invisibility among its countless mysteries, throbs a restless heave, unlike the heartbeat we know. Convulses, pulses, hums, and once raised beyond that frugal cosmic whisper, sings the splash of its waves in the range of our hearing. We always knew, deep in this reptilian brain, gravity had the scent of compassion. Why didn't Einstein say it that way?
Very cool. These images were brought to us by Amy Haskin. I don't think Amy has anything to add, but if she does, she can.
Wow, I'd like to say, wow. I thought that somebody was going to come and shoot me when I submitted this poem because it was so kind of difficult. I thought, I love these images.
Excellent job, Amy and Susan. Okay, on to the next one.
The next one is a parable. Having many dishes set upon a table is like having more than one pair of shoes. How can anybody use them? See the Berber woman draped in many colored robes beside her fire of twigs. She spills an exact cone of flour into her metal pan, scatters salt between her fingers, adds drops of oil, and tips in little by little the precious water. She coaxes the grain to dough, pats thin discs, and tucks her family's daily bread under hot ash, while in the heart of the fire, a battered pot of lentils steams, breathing out that ancient fragrance of bazaar. When the bread is torn and dipped, there's a decent chance that bellies will be filled. And who is mad enough to eat for tomorrow's ever-rising hunger today?
Nice. And these images were brought to us by Brenda Dennis. Brenda, I don't know if you want to speak to these images.
Well, when I read the poem, I thought there was going to be a challenge because although I like to bake and make things, I thought it was going to be a challenge to try and get all the components together. Susan's poem really made me think about, way back when, and people were having to do their breads unlike how we do them today. I struggled to find the components required. So that lovely brass copper cone you saw with the flower on it was actually something that I use with my bonsai soil. I had to, I cleaned it all up, made it look really pretty so I could put the flower on it. And I don't know how many times I had to shoot that in order to get it in the right place, because I had to hang on to it and do it with the remote. Anyhow, it was a lot of fun to do. I don't know anybody that bakes bread. I used our pan from our bread maker. So it's an up-to-date pan for making bread. But the setting of the table just reminded me of way back when, if you go to Europe, they always had brightly colored dishes and baskets. So I was able to incorporate some of the brightly dishes that we have, and threw in some colored little tomatoes and other fruit, because they frequently had fruits and vegetables and lots of plates to fill. So it was fun, Susan, thank you. I really enjoyed the challenge at trying to get all this together, and we've ended up having lots of lovely pitas to go with it.
Thank you very much, Brenda. I think
There you
you've
go.
done wonderfully.
Okay, Susan, on to the next one.
The next one is called Backyard. This is the way, owners believe, the world should be. Sacred ground trod by naked summer feet. Pools cool, sun-baked skin, host otter play, or wait in silence, scummed with linden dust. Youth and age teeter-totter here. The swing set stills and rusts in the rain. Life shape-shifts or stays the same forever, and nothing needs to end.
Excellent. And this
A
image is
wonderful
by,
image of someone
yeah.
on a swing.
this image was brought by Martin Knauer. Martin, I don't know if you want to speak to your image.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. I had technical difficulties earlier.
We got you.
Great. Susan, I really enjoyed your poem and finding an image for it. It's like it feels like a bittersweet memory to me, and that's how I tried to make this. This is a photo of our goddaughter a number of years ago, and it just I gave it I tried to age it and give it a sense of history. She's a lot taller, and she's a young lady now, but this was just a moment of youthful exuberance that captured in, as you said in your poem, it never needs to end and can stay the same, but time marches on. So yeah, so I hope that that went well with it, and I enjoy doing that. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
So the last one is heading home from choir practice, age 12. My bike tires crunch on the snow. I breathe out fog, and my fingers in worn mittens have gone numb. But the Star of Bethlehem stabs right through the night, high above the Mack truck plant. And inside my toque, the whole entire world is humming the Huron carol.
Nice.
That looks exactly right. I can feel it.
And this image is by Ken Martin. Ken, you got any words for your image?
Yeah, my biggest challenge was waiting for the snow. And I finally got some snow, and it was the Christmas Eve. We had a little bit of snow, and luckily my wife is as tall as a 12-year-old. I got her out on my granddaughter's bicycle in the front of the house. The neighbors thought I was crazy out there, riding back and forth, taking pictures, but it worked out.
It very well worked out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Susan. We'll hear from some more from Susan in the second half. We're moving on to 4 poems by Elaine George, and Elaine couldn't be here tonight. So in her place, we've got Caitlin Sandways is going to read Elaine's 4 poems. Are you there, Caitlin?
I'm here. Thank you.
Excellent.
So I don't know all the background, but I'll read any notes that Elaine has left with her poems. This first poem is a story told by any old sea captain, and it's called Blinded by the Light. I stood upon a brine-soaked bow aboard a schooner lost at sea, where balls of hail tore through the sails and broke the masts of 3, when karma came to pay me back for all my dirty deeds, when I laid upon a swan-like girl of grace and purity. I stole her mind, her heart and soul, her pride and dignity, when I wrapped her in a web of lies, proclaiming love eternally, as I sealed her fate and destiny with my host of wayward seeds that would one day bear a bastard child bathed in humility. For when her eyes were closed in sleep, I tiptoed out the door, a blackguard with a heart of stone. I left her lying there alone to face the morning after, with echoes of my laughter resounding through the rafters as she gazed upon my footprints on the floor. Many more I scored before upon these many shores, virgins by the dozen, and the broken town hall whores, but nary a thought crossed through my mind that one day I would find the wrath of God upon my brow when lightning struck me blind.
Awesome. These photos were done by Pearl Baxo. Pearl, have you got anything to add with it?
Not too much. As soon as I read the first verse, I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And now that they actually tore the masks down, I'm glad I had an excuse to get out there before they did that. And that first verse had more meaning after that.
Awesome.
But that's all.
Yeah, very true. Okay. On to the
All
next
right.
one there, Caitlin.
This next poem is called Lassie, and it's a poem in loving memory. I stand before you after all these years, amid the ocean brine with misty tears, on these old banks above the Fundy Bay, with all those words I never got to say. Wild daisies spread themselves across your grave, where lies the fallen marker that I made when I was but a child and new to death, in grief so deep it nearly took my breath. That broken house still sits above the bay, now weathered by those many stormy days. Those years we walked along that rocky shore, those years you saw me safely to my door. And now that I am old, I do believe you were an angel God had sent to me.
Amazing. These images were provided by Stuart Henry. And Stuart probably traveled the furthest to get his images.
Yeah. Yeah, the when I read through the poem, and obviously I think the imagery right away was sort of East Coast. In fact, I think it's very specific about that. But I knew that me and my wife were attempting to plan a trip out east if the window of opportunity opened with all the closures. So we got out there, and I actually had this poem in mind when we were out there. That it's, to me, it comes across as a combination of sort of very melancholy mood, but also an underpinning of happiness with the memories that it brings. Unfortunately for me, fortunately, I think I captured some of the melancholy mood of it, but I wasn't able to find what I was looking for to kind of bring in sort of that underlying happy mood. So it feels like a project not completed for me, but I really enjoyed the work.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stuart. Okay.
This next poem is a personification. The story is being told by an antique rosewood bed, and it's called Lie Down on Me. I wait for you in the moonlight, in the quiet of the night, within this room that holds so many moments of your life. The dreams you've dreamed still linger here between these flower papered walls that look beyond the window at the autumn leaves that fall. A quilted robe lies draped across a wicker rocking chair that held you and rocked you when grief was more than you could bear. A bassinet now empty, where once a baby slept, remains enshrined, chained to a time by the million tears you wept. A picture of a handsome man with you there by his side, a bride and groom so in love, with stardust in their eyes, stands behind a pane of glass within a gilded frame where your lip prints and fingerprints on its surface still remain. And now I hear your slippers as they slide across the floor, and I hear your labored breathing outside this bedroom door. And I know that soon I'll hold you here in this flower papered room and soothe your old and frail body in the lit of silver moon. I, your old companion, an antique rosewood bed. Let me hold you, Mary Beth. I, the best friend you've ever had. Let me hold you through the night and bring you back again, my dear, into the morning light.
Awesome. And all these images of this epic saga by Andy Glavick. Andy.
Well, it was definitely a challenge. When I first looked at the poem, I read it 3 or 4 times and said, wow, what's this about? So immediately I thought the bed was a person. So I had to recruit some people. I really thank my wife, Jean, for helping me get things set up. Most of this stuff was inspired at a trip to St. Anne's Spa. And then I had one missing piece, that was a rocker. And I really thank Brenda Dennis for allowing me to come into her home and use a couple of robes and a rocker. But it really, the thing that really, for me, the poem really brought purpose to my photography, because now it's, you know, when you put words to it, hopefully my photos mean what the words meant. And I tell you, Elaine is one deep woman for sure, because all of her poems really come right from the gut. And I thank Caitlin for standing in. And the photo on the mantles there, that's actually my parents' wedding picture from 1955.
Wow.
So it was really special through the whole thing. So thank you very much. It was great.
Awesome.
Okay, and the final poem is another personification. This one is as told by a rose. The poem is called Rose and Rosemarie. 'Twas on a morn in early spring when I met Rosemarie in a garden where she sat upon a bench beneath a willow tree, where with a glance my heart was stabbed with pangs of jealousy, for it was very plain to see she was by far more beautiful than me. She spoke with colored words like rainbows, spun with threads of gold, as she described the man she loved with all her heart and soul. She told me of his beauty, raven hair and eyes of green. And as she talked, he appeared before me as if in a living dream. She told me how she met him on the shore of Evermore, there in the fields above the cliffs, amidst the mist and ocean roar. She told me how with their first kiss, he carried her away as he poured his love into her soul, there so high above the windswept bay, with heaven but a breath away. Her words, like magic in that moment, cast a spell on me, for I too now had fallen so deeply in love with Canon Lee. I longed to feel his breath, his lips upon my velvet skin. I longed to quench the lustful thoughts that now burned so deep within. So when Rosemarie stood up to leave and turned her back on me, I dug my thorns into her wrist and sealed my evil deed. My jealousy, now turned to poison, ran quickly through her veins. As she tried to pry me loose, I clawed her once again. Tainted blood is what they say, stole his love away. And that is how I came to be here on these cliffs today. So tenderly he holds me now and finally kisses me. And as his tears fall on my open petals and trickle down my leaves, then from his lips there comes a cry of such despair it cracks the sky. My darling, my love, my life, why did you have to die? And here so high above these cliffs of evermore, I hear her name resounding above the ocean roar. Rosemarie, Rosemarie, as he cast me with a final kiss into the raging sea.
Wow. I'll tell you, Elaine really knows how to do it. Ruth Wallace provided these images. Ruth, are you here? And have you got anything to say about your?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, at first I thought, gee, I'm going to have to go and find some lovers that want to pose by some rocks and do all kinds of weird things. But then I thought, this is personification of a rose. And so I started to envision someone having a few roses and putting them into a vase as the poem grew, and they were sort of meeting each other and falling in love with each other. And then watching this bouquet of roses actually die and the petals starting to fall. And I thought maybe that was kind of the inspiration for the poem. And so that's how I photographed it.
Beautiful.
Beautifully challenging poem. Beautiful.
Thank you, Ruth. And thank you, Caitlin, for providing us with Elaine's poetry. And we're going to hear more from Caitlin in the second half, of course. And we're moving on to Mr. Tom Wood.
And first of all, I'd just like to say, way to go, Caitlin. You did a fantastic job reading those poems. You really did. I know that Elaine's poems are like, I feel like I'm in Victorian England when with the poetry. It's that type of a style. So it's not the easiest thing to read, but you did it. You did a great job on that. Anyway, clearing out my garden. Usually my poems don't mean anything at all about what they say, and there's usually something that I think everybody should understand about them, but then there's usually a question mark on their face, and this is probably one of them, because it sounds like it's about me cleaning out my garden, but it's really not. Anyway, I'll just read it. Clearing out my garden. I have this garden, pesky, full of stones, chips of broken tile, buttons, nails, marbles. I found a horseshoe once, a crypt of someone else's journey. I sit beside it, extracting busted histories, tossing them in a pail, trashing things that never belonged to me.
Excellent. And these images are by Joanne Zuba. And I don't know if Joanne's got, I don't think Joanne was going to share with us tonight, but if you want to, Joanne, chime in. I'll give you a second. And no, so we'll move on to the next one.
And just to be completely contradictory, this next poem is exactly what it says. Holding hands. Can we walk together? Maybe we could hold hands. I feel better when we're holding hands, don't you? When I'm afraid, holding hands makes me feel safe. Nothing else, that's all. Let's hold hands, walk side by side. Will you hold hands with me?
Awesome. This image is my image I did for your poem, Tom. And I really like the poem. I like how straightforward it is. The only thing is it's not just about holding hands. It's really about the relationship and the love and the safety that you feel when you're in a relationship. So this is a couple that's actually got engaged, and I did some engagement photos for them, and I thought obviously they're holding hands, but it really is like they're walking into a new journey in life. So I really thought it went with it.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's about vulnerability, really.
Yeah, and we all have to be vulnerable to fall in love.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
And the next one is called housework. Dust laminates the top shelf. I take my finger and draw a line through it, wondering if I might get a cloth and wipe it clean. I decide, no, I like it better this way. At least I know that I was here.
Excellent. This image is by Dave Johnson. I know Dave's here somewhere tonight. Dave, if you want to speak to your image.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with this one a little bit, but it was sort of the last two lines, at least I know that I was here. I've been to a lot of abandoned houses and places, and there's always something that someone leaves behind. That's sort of how I was getting the feel for this, that I know someone was there, whether they're, now that they're gone, and sort of the taking his finger and drawing the line through it. There's those sort of little lines in the sink there that probably someone didn't scratch them there, but it kind of made me think that maybe they did before they left this place.
Excellent.
Yeah. Great
awesome,
photo.
Dave.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right, the next one is called shoes. And it's not about shoes. Okay. Your shoes don't fit. Why don't you try mine? Even though our feet are different shapes and sizes. Maybe if I cut a hole, they might not be so cramped. But then your toes could get wet if it rains or if you come across a puddle. I have to agree, it's no easy feat walking in shoes that don't fit. Maybe you'd prefer going barefoot. Nice.
Excellent. These images are provided by Wendy Robbins. Wendy told me she wasn't going to share with us tonight, but excellent job, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. And Wendy and I met in the park in December. I was walking out, she was walking back, and she said, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'll tell you all, but don't tell Wendy, okay? She said, I'm really struggling with your poem. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's a beautiful photograph right there. Wendy did a great job.
Excellent. Good job, Wendy. Okay, so that's it for the first half. These are all been images inspired by poems. And now we're going to switch it around, and we go back to Keith Inman. And now we're going to have poems that have been written inspired by photographs that we've given them. So Keith, whenever you're ready. And in saying that, if either the photographer or the poet has anything to say at the end, we can let them speak to it, to react.
Okay, this is called Tourniquet. The first tug was at the corner store when the cashier stared at Billy as if the word criminal was stamped on his forehead. Armpits soaked and out on bail, he bought a candy bar and left. The second, like the weight of thread dragged across his vein, was the detective sergeant after the trial, her hand shaking his in the back hall, out of view of just about everyone, as she said, Thought you'd like to know he goes after girls with single moms. Your girlfriend was our third. Pulse against pressure. Then the section door slid open and closed to a central guard behind glass and a bank of monitors. Billy noticed the inmate cleaning floors, whispering to the standing guard, who whispered back as they stared at him, "Cut off." Thank you.
Wow. And this image was by Amy Haskins. Any thoughts, Keith, on how you came up with all that?
Yeah, I sometimes think the photographers got it easy, but I know there's going to be some discussion about that. But I mean, I grabbed this photo as soon as it come available. It was so cool, so in depth. There was so many ways I could go. But while I was thinking of it, just a memory of a friend when we were growing up. He had a troubled life, and I mean, I took liberties with it just to create tension for the story, but and then I just kept looking at the photo and the tension on the finger and just went with it.
Awesome.
Cool picture. Okay, next one is it Rib Cage Night. Oh, this one was so easy, he lied. Craziest and most difficult, I just let this one go, and it is what it is. Rib Cage Night. Rain ran down the back of Night's racked ribs to whirl over empty streets as the storm unwound past midnight, knocking out power to the Google hawks, who had nothing to do but hope their stock in trade was not hacked by candle-powered hand signals, burning down their tree of wealth like last time. It was a lot of fun, but that one was a stretch. It was, but still fun. I love this stuff.
Awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. And this image was provided by Dave Johnson. Good stuff, Dave.
Okay. Ready to run. Innocent pulls at the long forgotten things like first days at school, or a first step, the holding back of want, dare, resistance. But what did we know then about horizon points and other remembered truths? All blue and uniformed, learning to commune with knowledge. This photo reminded me of Cuba. I've been to Cuba a few times, and I reached or got close to the photographer's capture of emotion. It's the photograph is pretty brilliant.
Awesome. This was submitted by Nikki Ritz. I know Nikki isn't with us tonight, but good job, Keith.
And the last one, the interesting one. This one may be controversy, but 41 Chevy pickup. The story will come after. She looks like a whale breaching for krill, mosquitoes filtering her rusted grill, faded that gray aged sunlight look, a candy apple stripe along her fender. Where the V for horsepower was, fenced now and rock grown, to shed rain, her roof at that odd angle to shed rain. She's a home to vermin now, and is tired in her foundation of mud, side mirrors cracked above speckled handles, a forest growing up through and around her. The story on this one is I mean, just a beautiful old barn. Reminded me of my great uncle's out in Lincoln Way. And he had old clunkers out in the back field, stuck in mud. His was a 39 Ford. And when I just happened to, that triggered a memory, and I looked it up and found a 41 Chevy with this huge wide grill. It's just dominates the front end of the truck. Like, this barn dominates the scene. It's wide, it's tall, and that was it. Went from there.
Awesome. And that photo is by Brenda Dennis. And that's it for Keith. Okay. Thank you, Keith. Moving on to Susan Smith. We got you, Susan?
Excuse me. Is this better?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
First one is called Compulsion. I was taken by this image immediately as an emblem of the dancer's obsession with perfection and would never be doing anything good enough. But then later on, it occurred to me that it wasn't about that so much as about this desire to do something, to get something across. So anyway, it's called Compulsion. She leans into gravity, her partner and relentless foe, and coaxes sinews to lengthen that extreme degree, so each leg rules her body independent of the other. She releases the safety catch of pain, nudges evenly beyond. She hasn't moved, but quivers with intent, crouch and stare of the cheetah before some inner snap launches the golden arrow of body to its purpose. Ecstatic arc across empty air to the unknown watcher, shock or solace that leaves its mark nowhere, if not in the receiver's memory. Artifact more fleeting than her camouflaged pant of breath.
Thank you. And that image is by Andy Glavick. Excellent.
The next poem is called Big Bang. When I first saw this image, I came to this thought, and it never changed throughout, that the image is a silent representation of something just a split second before something important is really going to happen. And the nicest thing is it's taken from the back of the person. So even the person himself doesn't necessarily see what's going to happen next. It's called Big Bang. The drummer takes his seat on the throne, prepares to echo the heartbeat of the world in bass thud, toms tapping two tones, snare skitter, and from the cymbals that sing, ting, clash. But time stops before the downstroke begins. Silence could last forever. That moment when the power cuts out, when the plague-emptied highway is stilled, when old friends realize they are lovers too, when the newborn sets out to wail, moment of poise before this universe burst out.
Excellent. I love this one. This is my picture. So thank you so much, Susan. Great job.
The next poem is called Meditation Almost. Chill air turns clammy on your skin. The lake's great bowl is as close as it comes to stillness. When you rest the paddle on the gunnels, you barely drift. There's a flannel silence. If you strain, faint ticks and drips, but it's early, even for the loons. You don't want to hurry past this mirrored moment. You want to sink to the place of becoming dew-slick rocks, plumes of mist, shower of fragrance beneath the pines. Of course, you couldn't untangle if you tried. You're no witness from beyond, but a creature of this land, one who yearns for fire, boiling coffee, bacon charring on the pan.
Nice. And that image was provided by Susan Dayball.
That image is an absolute ingrained memory from my childhood. It wasn't Algonquin, but it could have been. It's beautiful.
It was Algonquin.
Yes. Okay, the last poem was composed in response to a most dramatic photograph that could have gone many different ways, but it reminded me forcefully of a book that I edited many, many years ago that was about what remained after wildfire in a boreal forest landscape. So that's where this came from. The poem is called Gentle Argument Against Suicide. I agree there's no justice. With what happened to you, why should you believe in the future? This tree is dead, of course. It will never leaf again. The skeleton stands on a hummock at the water's edge. That alone should have saved it, but the fire licked out, crackled the body to coal, bones of branches to ash. This morning, behind that lonely wreck, fog nestles between the singed ridges like leftover smoke. But already, borers have laid their eggs through that bitter bark. When larvae appear, famished birds will throng the acrid air. Woodpeckers hammering hollows where songbirds nest, and little by little, along the ancient chain of need, a new community will be born. Life tries this hard to be eternal. You could stay a little longer, just in case you'd miss what joy at last your days might bud.
Excellent. This image is by Wendy Robbins. And that's it for Susan Smith. Thank you very much, Susan. Which brings us to Caitlin Samways.
Thank you. I'll start with Misty Evening on the Shore. I thought I caught her scent upon the spray, a curse that even unpleasant smells loiter in the mind to trigger an imagined souvenir of the past. Too long I have lingered, seeking, thirsting, while waves lose meaning amidst such misfortune. I have grasped at emptiness, only to cringe at the tumult, naught but air, thick with mist, smelling of last night's after dinner winds, yet tempting a memory of her arising within, illuminated by a beacon. Was it midnight's glare that cast a shadow dashed upon the rocks just there? So my comment about, I love the photo. I feel like you can feel being there with the mist. For some reason, I kind of pictured it, even though it's daytime, a vision of night came to me. And I find when I'm at the water, there's a part of me that enjoys being in the present moment and feeling all the elements. And yet there's often a part of my mind that goes somewhere else into the past or future. So that's where this poem took me, or this photo took me.
Awesome. And the photo is by Stuart Henry. Okay.
So the next is called Satan Doesn't Live Here Anymore. He packed his bags and left last week. No curtain call, no slamming door. How unlike his usually low and haughty self, salved in insolence. Still, I remember, he let his talons catch the edge of yellowed paper on the wall, just as dried, curling. It peeled back, chasing him down the hall, unfurling like smoke the shade of tobacco teeth. Flames licked the boots, concealing cloven heels, eating away the wooden planks under his feet. Spurs without jingle, and a fiddle up cracked leather sleeve, ready to duel, but never looking back to me. I thought the resistance of sin would be deafening. Instead, he rolls out soundlessly soon after he's let in. Still, there was squall, a voice screaming, my own, throwing all of his relics with a force to split bone, cursing with vengeance, praying, fucking disappear. Don't ever return with your rage, blame, and fear. Once upon a time, 'twas a shack held a home. Such temporary things fade while unchecked selfishness grows. If evil pervades in our houses, it shows.
Wow. And that's awesome.
Is it very inspired by the 666 and the Satan in this photo. And the story just kind of jumped out.
That was awesome. And this photo is by Pearl Baxo. Okay.
So this poem is called Pounding Hooves. There is a moment, all goes quiet, hoof beat, heart beat. That moment is now. There is no crowd. Me, you, me. There is no cheering. There are no shouts. Spurs off, hoof fall. Our minds making, silence loud, hearts meet, one all. In the moment, all goes quiet, hoof beat, heart full. I am you, and you are me. Hoofs fall, hearts beat. And when it all comes rushing back, fans yell, cheers loud. We breathe again, Thor's hammer felled, hooves still, pounding.
Wow, very cool.
I found this photo most challenging, and it took a while. I didn't want to put too many words into it because I really felt that the photographer captured this moment where you're in the moment and everything else kind of fades into the background.
If I can just say a word, Darren.
Yeah, of course.
The poem just really absolutely captures the idea that I felt in the photograph. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love the musicality of it. And that is photos by Valerie Frost. Thanks, Val and Caitlin. Awesome. And one more for you.
The final poem is called A Thistle's Kiss. The word proboscis on my lips, a lighting, a delicate touch, without puncture, pressure, lured by stamen secreted nectar, a cabbage white to the thistle comes, penetrating with proboscis, fun to say or whisper, captured in voyeuristic lust, the purple peaceful thistle kiss succumbs.
Nice. Anything to say about this one, Caitlin?
I think this one was really fun to write. The word proboscis came to me and I was actually mispronouncing it. So I had to look it up on Google and make sure I had it correct for the poem. But I really love how something that can be so sharp or painful in one circumstance is so light and life-giving in another.
Excellent. And this image is by Ken Martin. Thank you, Ken. And that's it for Caitlin. Thank you so much, Caitlin. And our last poet for tonight is Tom Wood. Last
Okay.
but not least.
The first poem is called Gone. And I wrote this. This was the last poem I wrote for the four photographs that I picked, and it was I struggled with it, and I don't know why. Because what I do when I get the photographs, I look at them and I write down a single word, the first word that pops into my head, and I just write it down on a page. Then I don't look at it again for a few days, and then I'll come back to it. But the first word that came to me with this poem was secret. And the poem is called Gone. Southern breeze ambles in. What secrets do these stone walls hold? Are there cries of children or clomp of horse and carriage? Perhaps a bough that held our kin with rope who tells no tales. Spanish moss never feeds on victuals of its host, only sways like echoes in the courtyard of solitary souls.
Awesome. And that image is by Martin Knauer.
The next one, I actually wrote 2 poems for, and I sent we've got our poetry meeting next week, and I sent the other one off for the poetry meeting for next week. But I'm going to read, obviously I'm going to read the one that I sent in to Darren, and it's called Due North. Seems I'm sleeping more or less lately, north of an Arctic tilt, pitching into nautical twilight, while day leaches south, light years from the sheets tucked beneath my chin. This is the witching hour, straddling east, yawning west, neither above nor below, unpossessed by slumber. I lie adjourned, a chart coursed in limbo, cleaving awake. I can only see when I dare to look behind. This is a fabulous photograph.
Very nice. This photo is by Dave Lindy.
The next poem, when I looked at it, it just reminded me of my daughter, and that's all I'll say. And it's really a story about my daughter, this poem, because I saw her in it. Anyway, the poem is called Somebody Else's Something. Miserable little mouse, they gave you boy ears when all you wanted was to be a girl. Cheeping from around a corner, twitching whiskers, stealing cheese with nipping fingers. Sad little clown, painted smile, an echo longing to be heard from under a thick layer of lipstick, brilliant, red. Lonely little sunbeam, lost inside the patter of someone else's rain, eclipsed behind a billow, knotweed choking out your sun. A smothered garden, ripe to burst.
Awesome. And this photo was submitted by Peter Ferguson. And our last poem and image for the evening.
The last poem, I actually combined 2 poems here. There was a poem that I had written quite a while back, and then one that I wrote for this, and when I submitted the shorter piece to the group, the feedback I got was there needs to be more, and then I found the other poem,
and I joined them together. Anyway, here it is. It's called Coin Toss. Done with gurus, sages, teachers, mentors, gods. My flesh, my fingers, speculation, imagination, time to make the call. Heads talk too much. Tails tell lesser lies.
Excellent. And this last image was provided by Ruth Wanless. Awesome. I just want to take a quick moment. We're going to have an open forum at the end here where everyone can chat, but I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all the people you see here, all of the poets, of course, and all of you photographers who participated. It makes for a great show and is very inspirational in two directions, I think. It's always interesting to me to see how to get into the mind of the poets and how they're inspired by images and how we're inspired by their poetry. It's really interesting. Also to let you know, the last 2 years we did this, we always put together a PDF ebook, which has all the poems and all the images in a PDF, and we will be doing that again this year. Thank you to Valerie Frost. She's going to be putting that together. So once that's completed, in the near future, I'll be sending it out to everybody. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can have a chat. It's an open forum for people to share their thoughts and talk to each other, and we'll do that.
I have to say I'm extremely impressed, and I can't wait to be a part of it for next year. That was superb.
This is the first one I've attended of these. It's I think it's fantastic. But I think it was I can't remember who was it that said that they thought that the photographers might have the easier job. And I'm gonna say I think that is the case. I think the poets have to work very hard to come up with the images or to come up with the stories around the images. So fantastic work, though.
I just think it's brilliant, just the sharing of the art and just, I mean, even when the poems don't, if the poet goes off on a tangent or even the photographer, it doesn't matter. It's still brilliant. It's neat seeing it connect, and it's neat seeing it go off in another, a tangent. It's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
We never know what an artist is going to come up with. So that's the beautiful part of it. And what one person sees, another person sees in a completely different way. And that's the beauty of it. That's what makes it fun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And to be honest, like getting to hear the poem about your image or vice versa, it's almost like a little Christmas present, like, oh,
And you know what, Darren, I really enjoyed hearing from the photographers this year. I just found it a little more interactive because I'm always interested in people's creative process and how they work through things, and whether you're using your eyes, whether you're using your ears, or whether you're using your voice, it's all a creative process, and I'm always interested in hearing how other people come to their conclusions or their inspirations. It's always I just like hearing that.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for it was Tom that said to me, hey Darren, we really need to hear from the photographers this year. So thank you for that, bringing that up, Tom. I almost forgot about it.
Tom, I wanted to say, 1 second. Sorry, there was some feedback there. Tom, I wanted to say that your poem called Secrets, I took that image, I submitted that image, and I think it was right on. It was taken near Hunting Island in South Carolina. It's an old burned out church, and it really does, that whole area has a lot of secrets and mystery and you know, kind of strange beauty with the what's it called hanging from the trees again?
Spanish moss.
Spanish moss.
Spanish moss, I looked it
Yeah,
up.
yeah, the Spanish moss. So just super. Yeah, well done. Thank you. And everybody, it was great.
Looking forward to next year, Darren.
Yeah,
I'm always fascinated to see the interpretation of someone else. When I submit an image, I have a story behind it and a reason for taking it. And then to hear the poem come back with a completely different perspective is always really interesting and lots of fun. Enjoy it.
Good.
Thanks for letting me be part of this, Darren. And when I saw the title that Keith had for my photo, I thought he was going in a different way than how I saw the photo. So it was interesting to see what he did with it.
awesome. Thanks for joining us, Dave. I asked Dave Johnson to join us. He's not a member of the club, but I had an odd number of people and I wanted to make it nice and even. And I thought, I know a guy who might be in on this. So thanks
Well,
for
it's a
helping
cool
me out,
picture.
Dave.
Lots of possibilities.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is, like, when I put that photo together, I saw it as an X-ray with a rib cage in there. That's why when I saw your title, I thought, okay, maybe someone else saw that in there as well.
Yeah, that's what I started with and then just went from there. But the craziest picture I had, like that, but it's a cool picture. They're all, the photography is fantastic, by the way.
Awesome. Anybody else got anything?
That was a good time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Who's that?
It's Susan.
Oh, Susan, yeah.
I want to thank Darren for creating this idea and putting it together every year. It's always my favorite meeting of the year. Really creative and so much fun.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
here.
You're welcome.
I want to congratulate Caitlin too for stepping up. She came in on the 11th hour and wrote four
Very
beautiful
good.
poems. So
Absolutely.
way to go.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this event this year. I hope to at least be a witness to it going forward, or to be included. It's been really awesome. And I agree with the sentiment that sharing the art and seeing different perspectives. And it's awesome when all these creative minds come together.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, good job all around.
Okay, folks. Once again, thank you all for coming. If anyone else has anything, if anybody has anything to say, if not, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, poets, and thank you, photographers, for another year of poetry and photography. I will be emailing you ebooks once we get those done. You'll get a PDF in the emails. So
Thank you very much, Darren.
Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome. You're
Another
welcome.
great job.
Great.
Good night, everyone. Wonderful to see everybody. Wish I could
night.
see you in
Everyone,
person.
good night.
We're
Good
gonna go
night.
live sometime.
Yeah.
Night. Stay
Good
safe.
night.